If you've ever had muddy sounding vocals, I'm going to show you a simple step-by-step way to fix it every single time. After you watch this video, you're going to know exactly how to go from muddy to clear. There are two main reasons why your vocals might sound muddy. 99% of the time, it's one of these two things. One, the track or the rest of your mix is muddy and there's no space for the vocal to sit. Or two, the actual tone of the vocal needs to be adjusted to fit the mix and fit your vision better. So let's talk about how to fix both. So the first thing, we have to identify if there's a problem with the track mix. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to mute individual elements and we're going to see if all of a sudden the vocal sounds less muddy. If it sounds a little clearer when we take something out, then that element might need a little work.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I switch my place up.
So you hear when we took that main synth out, all of a sudden the vocals seemed to have a lot more space in the mix. So let's solo that element and see what's going on. So it's this filtered kind of sine wave synth sound. It sounds really cool, but overall it's competing with a lot of the frequencies of the vocal. Let's just pull up a regular EQ on this track and see what we've got. So you can see the analyzer, it's right in this 200 to 500 range. That's exactly where the vocal is trying to sit with all those fundamental frequencies, and therefore it's causing this clash and it makes everything kind of sound muddy. Take one more listen as we pull it out of the mix. You're gonna hear the vocal all of a sudden has a lot more room to breathe.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I switch my place.
Now, obviously, we don't want to just completely remove it from the production, so let's talk about how we might fix it. So one thing we can do is we can play around with the level overall. This is usually where I start because a lot of times just pulling something down a few dB can actually fix all the problems.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I switch my place up.
So I pulled it down 3 or 4 dB. I still didn't quite get that open sound that I want, so I am going to use a little bit of EQ. And I'm not going to go crazy, just a little bit of dip here where it seems to be building up the most.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around.
So that combined with a little bit of tucking it into the mix has all of a sudden opened things up a lot. Now we're not all the way there yet, but this is a lot closer. Whenever I'm dealing with muddy vocals, I always like to start by looking at what else is going on, because a lot of times you can fix a lot of problems and you're going to make better decisions when you actually do start processing the vocals. So now I'm pretty confident that all the elements of the mix are sitting pretty nicely. There's a nice hole for the vocals, but now we just need to kind of take it to the finish line with processing the vocal, give it the right tone that we want. Because right now it's a very warm, natural sounding tone. And for this mix, I'd like it to have a bit more of a poppy, kind of in your face, upfront sound. So let's talk about how to get there. Now, a common tip I see is to put an EQ and to cut 250, right? So if we did that.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around.
Now, the immediate problem there, as you can hear, is that all of a sudden the vocal sounds completely unnatural. We lost all the body and size, and now the vocal sounds tinny and small and kind of pushed in the back. Even if we just do smaller cuts at that frequency, all of a sudden we start to lose all of the core frequencies of the vocal.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So
now that might work depending on the direction you're going for, but instead, I like to think of it like this. I like to think about the overall vocal tone and how I can shape it instead of just what I can pull out of it. So with Xvox Pro here, let's pull it up. You can see we're doing a little bit of filtering just to get some rumble out of there. But instead of thinking, oh, what do I need to cut to get rid of the mud? I want to think about, well, how do I want to shape this vocal tone? I know that I want a little bit more of the presence of the vocal to cut through, and maybe I do need a little bit less of the lows, but not too much. Let's see what happens when we start playing around with it this way, and we just try to shape the vocal where we want it to be.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I switch my place up. I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down. So I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you.
So you can see I'm just kind of playing around with the overall vocal tone, trying to make it sound brighter, a bit more present, a bit more in your face. rather than thinking, oh, what do I need to pull out in order to get rid of the mud? Listen to what the difference is when we go back to our original way here of just what do we need to pull out? Oh, 250. This is what it sounds like compared to when we actually shaped the tone and thought of it holistically.
I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? I've been looking all around for you. I've been looking up and down for you now. You ain't coming back around, are you? You ain't coming back down.
So what's crazy is we actually have more of the lows and body frequencies in the Xvox Pro version, and it still sounds clearer. And it sounds clearer because we thought of, oh, well, we actually need a little bit more presence. If the problem is we actually need a little bit more of those high mids, those articulation frequencies, rather than just thinking, what do we need to cut? So try this out when you're mixing vocals, especially applying EQ. Instead of thinking, what do I need to cut or what do I need to boost? Think about, how do I want to shape this vocal broadly? And you're going to wind up with bigger, more natural sounding vocals. So just a good general tip when using Xvox Pro, I like to use the modern and the clear mode if I'm running into kind of muddy vocals. It's kind of giving us different shapes. The clear mode is going to be a little bit more present and forward. The modern mode is going to be a little bit more crisp. And then you can always use the tone handles if you want to dial it in a little bit further. For example, if you wanted to use the modern mode, but you just need to kind of dial in where it's pulling out some of the mud, you can do that easily with the tone handle. So try this approach next time you're dealing with muddy vocals. Start with making sure there's nothing in the track that's causing the problem. And also, instead of thinking about what you should cut from the vocal, think about how you need to rebalance the overall tone of the vocal to make it sit better in the mix. That way you'll always have full and clear vocal mixes. Try it out in your next session.